Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friend.
Yeah.
Good to see you. I know I'm feeling a little rough today, but that's all right. Whiskey fixes all, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
I'm not even going to go down that road. I think I'll stay PG for now anyways. Wait till my first glass is done and then maybe I'll, get off
Entertain
topic
that
a little bit
more.
Yeah. I mean, I
Wicked.
did catch myself earlier about talking about 1-800 vanity numbers, and you know where my mind went.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited for today's episode. I know our friend Stephanie Postel is as well. As her and I got into a little bit of banter back and forth about how she's excited about every episode, but we just keep bringing on better and better guests. So we've got Brianna, or Bree, as she is commonly known as, Skiffington. She is the CPO, that is Chief Product Officer at Ad Leverage. She's also the co-founder of CXC. We're going to get into what the hell that is, and DataCube, which, if you're a part of the Service Avengers group, you would have definitely heard all about DataCube. It's constantly talked about in there. Fantastic resource for contractors to be able to track all of their KPIs all in one place, put them up all over their office on multiple TV screens, and be able to promote what's happening in the office. So I'm jacked for this conversation today. Brianna, she's been speaking at the Service Titan Marketing Summits. I think she's spoken at every one this year. She's was also on the stage at Pantheon as well, and definitely over delivered on her message. There is the feedback that I got. Super excited for this conversation, because it's another guest that I started talking to probably in January, maybe January or February, trying to get her on the show originally. And now we finally made it happen after we got to spend a little bit of time together down in Austin at Profit Rocket. So I'm super glad to get her on the show today.
Enough said. I don't really need to say anything on these intros. It should just be Evan on the screen by himself. But and look, when we had 60 and Amanda Triolo and what they're building and what they're talking about, super excited to dive into some of those things too, and just the AI that they're bringing to what some people would say an industry who doesn't like to change too terribly much. But we'll talk into that in how that's leveraged. So I'm super excited. But today's show would not be possible, of course, without our sponsors, CHIIRP, Real-Time 360 on Purpose Media. Evan just disappeared, so I guess I'm going to try to... Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
All right, so let's go. And now he's gone. So let's just start with CHIIRP here. He's trying to figure his life out. It's great. CHIIRP is the ultimate automation toolbox home service for home service pros. Helps you capture more leads, connect faster, and close more deals. How would you like to be like, Dave signed up his first month, added $42,000 in revenue just with CHIIRP in shoulder season. Cassie did the exact same thing also in shoulder season and did $80K in revenue in just 14 days via a whole slew of options, emails, rehash programs, text messages. You name it. List goes on and on and on. Check them out today at CHIIRP.com. But if you use CHIIRP.com/HSSR, guess what? 25% off your first 3 months, including your onboarding.
And we've got Real-Time 360. If you are tired of juggling multiple marketing tools and having agencies own all of your logins, say goodbye to the frustration and take control of your marketing with Real-Time 360. Streamline your reviews, automate your socials, engage customers with live chat, and track your success all in one place. Join the revolution, empower your success with Real-Time 360. You can check them out at realtime360.io.
And last but certainly not least is On Purpose Media. Your number one digital marketing, number one home service digital marketing agency out there. That's a mouthful. I got to really script one out for ourselves. So maybe somebody on the team who's listening to this can make me a script for that. If you want to know if your marketing is on point or off point, check it out on purposemedia.ca/marketing-analysis. Hit us up. So without further ado,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Whoa.
It's a fun video, hey? I must say, I do really enjoy how tanned I look in the video compared to how pale I look right now.
we're getting into winter months. I wasn't going to judge you, but I am about to get a tanning membership myself.
You need a tanning membership for in California.
Oh, so I'm actually in Florida. You would think that I don't need one, but I don't have a lot of time to just sit outside and lay out,
Gotta sit on your laptop.
Yeah, you would think. Then you get the sun on the screen. It's tried
you should put like the side things beside your like the old ones, like with the tin foil that used to like radiate up onto their faces. You could try that. See if that works. And send photo. And then send a photo of you working with that on there, because I think that would be hilarious.
Definitely. Absolutely. We're putting it in the group. By the way, we're gonna have GPT write you that intro. It's gonna be great.
Perfect. I already figured that Stacy would be looking at utilizing ChatGPT anyway, so it works.
Love it.
Yeah.
Sick. Bree, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. That just moved me, so now I got to
sure did
thing over there. So now I'm looking this way, and it makes it look like I'm looking at him sometimes. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy. You just ran from one meeting into this one, so I appreciate that. How did you get started in the trades? What was it that attracted you to it? Because you have the digital marketing background, started with Ad Leverage 7 years ago, but what was it about the trades that really got you jacked about it?
I feel like it's a super random story how I ended up in the trades, but worth telling. I love it. So basically, when I was in college, I was throwing parties and marketing them, and people were showing up via this Facebook marketing that I was doing, and it was awesome, right? I was actually monetizing like this little marketing effort, right? I went to school for marketing. My mom's been in it for a long time. She, kind of encouraged me down that path. I just weaponized it for parties, right? So that was my start, and ended up wanting to move to LA, applied at an advertising agency that was Ad Leverage, right? Sat down with Andrew, and it's a pretty funny start. He was very apprehensive in my interview with him. I think it was the third interview I sat down with him. And I asked him if he had any reservations about my qualifications. And he said, well, it sounds like you do a lot of marketing for fun. Our clients aren't quite as glamorous as you might imagine out here in LA. But listen, I'll give you a shot. I just need you to come up with a social media plan for a funeral home. And I was like, okay. So I tried it, and apparently it was good, and he liked it. So I started with Ad Leverage, right? It was definitely thrown into like some random like service marketing that was a shocker from booking DJs and throwing parties and like all the fun that I was having, right? So working with Ad Leverage for a few years, I want to say even like 3 months in, one of the first clients I was given was an electrical company, Express Electrical, Mario Camperano. I credit him with a lot of my knowledge and rise in the industry for sure. I remember one of our first conversations, he was talking to me about this, abstract little CRM he discovered called Service Titan. This was years ago. And it was just, it was a funny intro into the trades, right? And I realized immediately working with him that it was my favorite type of client to work with because it was very straightforward. The path to purchase for customers, right, is I was working primarily with search and social at the time. It was very easy to like place ads strategically for urgent repair kind of keywords, and they convert pretty instantly into phone calls. And I was like taken back by it. I was like, this is even cooler than parties, because with a party, it's like you got to wait a month or two, plan it out, hope that it works, like cross your fingers that people show up, right? Well, with the trades, it's like people need electrical repair today. They are calling the minute they click. Like it is evident in real time what you're able to do or not do, right? So it's a very highly like accountable, type of business to work with, but I really thrived on that and loved it. And that's really how I got into it. He started introducing us to other companies, eventually to Service Titan. We got, really great with that. Obviously, we became the Service Titan certified providers. And, from there, it just kind of snowballed. But that was my intro to the trades and loved it. Won't leave it. Been in love with it ever since.
I'm curious, what was the tagline that you came up with for a funeral home?
I didn't end up doing a tagline. I did the social media plan and the paid search plan. And I will say that, one thing I noticed about other funeral homes is they actually do Google shopping for their flower arrangements. And that was something they found really innovative after we ended up presenting it to them. It worked out really well. They're still a client to this day. So I try not to,
I thought it was a test to see like what would your creative flair come up with, and like people are just dying to get in. That's a long-standing one. That's kind of where I was hoping for something that would have been riveting.
Again, a current client.
Yeah, fair. Touche.
Oh shit, that's
gotta
great.
double down on empathy these days.
Good
for you. At least one of us is.
Yeah.
Definitely isn't Evan or me.
Yeah, no. No, so you've been at Ad Leverage 7 years. You're working with this incredible operator out in New York.
Oh, that's one of them for sure.
And I do want to get into CXC and what it is. I don't know if that, are you okay if we just dive right into this?
Yeah, it's green lights, man.
Sweet. Because I guess, how did CXC come about? What is it? I loved how Amanda brought it up in terms of like, because this is GPT early days, and you posed some questions to her. And that was kind of the birth of it, which, I mean, all great ideas come about by asking great questions. So curious, what were those questions that you asked her? And then what is CXC? Let's dive into it because it is so fucking cool.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, so it's obviously, so like just to kind of throw it back a little further, marketing turned into product at a point where we ended up developing a solution as the marketing agency for NextGen for Ishmael. That's turned into DataCube, right? Awesome. It's been great. That was like our first go at thinking, hey, we can actually like develop software. And it was cool because we made it just for him, right? But he was like, hey, I have a friend who likes this. I have another friend who likes this. Like, can we actually turn this into something? So we did. We're about 2.5 years into that now. And it just kind of validated and spun us down this path of like, we can actually create software products. Obviously, as an ad agency, we have, developers on staff who help clients create their own products, right? But it was our first go at developing our own, right? And it wasn't even just marketing specific. So that was really cool too. So one day, Amanda had been a new client at the time. I think she came on board with us late last year, right? And we're having like lots of dialogue and conversation to get her started, get, everything going. And one of the random conversations we had was about, what is your biggest time suck? Because what we were running into is like marketing is a very big, not time suck, but time investment, right? So, in that massaging of how to figure out how to get more time from her to figure out what we need to do, it was a lot of like, well, what's taking up the most of your time? How can we help you as a true partner integrated in your company, not just your advertising partner, right? And she was like, listen, I just took on call by call for my company. I'm personally doing it. I'm literally like answering the phone. And obviously, look, as like a trades marketing partner, we are kind of familiar with like the operational side. We're able to spot metrics and deficiencies, but it was interesting to hear like the actual operational process that was taking time from her day. Mm-hmm. So describing call by call to me, the timing of this call was actually, I was on a trip with a colleague who love dearly. We're great friends. We decided we were going to take a co-working trip to Tulum, right? We spent about 10 days there hanging out in February. It was so much fun. And I thought it was going to be like a more social trip where we're just working together, hanging out. He had an agenda. He was dead set on showing me the value of ChatGPT and why we needed to adopt it at the agency and how far behind we were even in February. And like, we need to do this now. We need to figure out ways to like build on this now. Right. And at the time I had like, I'd heard about it. I hadn't actually used it. He forced me for like hours, our first night, hours. Like, I think it was like 10 hours, like landed in Mexico. And it's like, we're going to dinner, we're sitting down and we're like playing with this robot.
And lots of tequila.
And lots of tequila and mezcal, all of it. You got to do it. So we're doing that, right? And like, I'm like, holy shit, this is super cool. Thinking of immediately all the marketing use cases. But in my conversation with Amanda, it happened to be while I was co-working on that trip. And she's telling me this. And I'm like, I have him sitting here. I'm sitting here. Like we had been like staying up late night trying to figure out ways to utilize this. And she was like, yeah, call by call is my biggest time suck. And I'm like, listen, whatever it is, I'm sure we can figure out a way to use AI to optimize it, right? And she was like, you know, I think it's too complex. I think it's a lot, you know, like, here's what I do. It's very human interaction. It's a lot of like context. It's a lot of XYZ. And she started thinking about it and she's like, but you know, I've actually always wanted to put recorders on my team and see what happens inside the home. I'm like, that's really cool. Like, that's really innovative, right? So we're like thinking through this and it's like, is that legal? Is that weird? Are people going to be mad? Like when you walk up to their door and you're like, I'm recording this interaction. So we spent a lot of time like working through that, right? And it turned out to be super like feasible and cool. And there's ways to comply with like the compliance aspects of it, to notify your customers. And a lot of people actually tend to welcome it. She started testing it herself. And a lot of people tend to welcome it because it's like, it's mutual accountability, right? It's like, if our team says we're going to install XYZ, like, and we talk about this, you have like mutual assurance that like we are doing exactly what we said we were going to do. We're not going off track. We're not selling you something you don't need. It's accountability for the company, right? So when positioned that way, customers are open to it. And yeah, so we started running these recordings. It was very, you know, manual at first, trying to figure it out. We patched it together as quickly as we could, ran a few tests, and we were like, hey, this actually works. This is crazy. This is generating responses that are like really valid and providing a lot more guidance for the technician. And it can be in real time if we implement it correctly. Right. So like the immediate, you know, creation of it was like, okay, let's test some things that we can, like here and there with Zapier. Let's plug this into here. And then we're like, wait a second, this is useless if we don't have the context of the CRM for the price book, for the customer record, possibly the customer history. So we started tying in all these things and developing it over months and like really refining it with a few key people at her shop, right? And it was, I think she just did like some kind of post about it, but basically she had released our most refined version of it in October to her full team and ended up like, that's traditionally shoulder season, right? Ended up having her biggest sales month. And like, this is just so enriching to that whole process and like providing the text, the in-home guidance. It's not just about like, oh, I call somebody, we kind of relay a little bit of the context, we kind of figure it out. It's like, it's really, really, really like adding a whole lot of value to her team and confidence and allowing them to work autonomously. And, you know, it's her process. So obviously a ton of people are interested in it because they can utilize her process and she can extend her reach without having to, you know, be on a consultation call or a coaching call every hour. Right. So that's kind of how it turned into something. And we're super excited. It should be live publicly in January. We've been beta testing it all year with her company, most recently with a few other companies. And the results, the reactions are just like phenomenal. Super stoked.
Well, and like I like the mutual assurance thing because even when we had her on the show down in Austin, and for anybody listening, go back and re-listen to that episode, and she dives deep into, you know, how they're leveraging and what they're leveraging and what they're utilizing, and like we can touch on some of those things too. But I remember the story that she used, and some people might be weirded out that they're listening to the presentation or in their home or whatever, right? But there was actually a good use case where somebody called and say, yeah, you know, I think it was mini splits, and they said, yeah, you would install 4 and you guys installed 3, and they're like, oh, hang on, let me go listen to the recording because we record all of our presentations. I'll get back to you. And they're just like, no, don't worry about it, you guys must be right. And so like there's use cases out of it for that, right? And to be
and sure as shit, it was what, 13 times that the 3-zone system was mentioned, and not once was a 4-zone mentioned.
Yeah. So and so like there's just good things that come as a result of it. So, but I want to open the door to the conversation around AI and the potential, I guess, not legalities, but people are scared by it. And they have this fear that we're going to be replaced by robots or they're going to do our job for us. And on and on and on. So how can, you know, you look at CXC and what you're doing and listen to the calls and spitting out the data, and maybe we go backwards to like, okay, what is actually involved? But I just say, go listen to that episode. What are some of the, I guess the question that I have, and I'll get to it eventually, a little bit long-winded here in this one, the dark side of AI, the dark side of the technology. What do you say to somebody who might be worried about that?
Yeah. Of course we hear that all the time, right? I would say it was a huge emphasis back like in like Q1, Q2, right? I think now people kind of understand and whether they do or don't, it's like it's here. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So the only way that you're going to prevent those things from happening, like prevent yourself from being, arbitrary because AI can do your job, is embracing it and doubling down on it and being the first and the fastest one to maximize it, right? Like become a prompt engineer. And like I say that very loosely, like that's not hard. Technically, I have zero qualifications in AI, in like, large language models, natural language processing. Like I didn't go to school for that, didn't go to school for computer science, but like here I am talking about like how we've created a business off of this. And it's just because we like messed around in the interface, figured out it provides a great response. Anybody can do that. And like that's the really cool part about it, is like anybody can and should do that. Don't sit back and like be afraid and say like, oh, it's going to take my job. I disagree with it. There's all these risks, because then, yeah, like eventually it's not going to be the AI that takes your job. It's going to be somebody who actually embraced it, doubled down on it. And they're showing, they're applying for interviews with AI resumes, right? Like, it's like, come on, you gotta really like double down, even if you're afraid. Like it was scary to me too. I hadn't even dived into it until my colleague drugged me into it in February. And here we are, 8 months later, it's like suddenly you have a AI company and you're like an authority on it and you're teaching workshops on it. It's like, really, I have no standing to be able to do that other than I embraced it and figured it out. And it's like, well, here we are. I'm trying to help other people embrace it as well. And, if you do, just being an example here, you can figure it out and make it work for you and become even more valuable and even more credible by embracing it, is what I would say. As far as like I think you mentioned like some kind of like privacy aspects or like dark sides, right? It's like we've built our product anyway in such a way that it doesn't actually reveal anything like that to the large language models. But I will say most of the large language models that utilize, and offer enterprise level API connections actually don't retain any of that information anyway. They're not actually retraining their models on what's submitted through that. So it is pretty safe, and they're built for that, right? Is like they want not just consumer adoption, but enterprise adoption. So they're building their products in such a way that it offers that anonymity with the data that you're feeding it to an extent.
Perfect.
Love it. Well, and I love how it all started with a question, right?
Yeah.
What is your biggest time suck?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that is, quite frankly, not worth the energy that you're putting into it in terms of dollar returns? Now, she was getting a lot back from call by call,
right?
Because for her, and I remember the conversation, she said, I'm going to be investing so much more into PPC because Brianna twisted my arm and told me that I need to be spending way more on Google ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that in jest. But she needed to make sure that her procedure was on point, and sure as shit, it was not, right? Everyone was doing their own thing. They were running the call their way. They weren't doing all the things. They weren't showing the customer everything that they needed to know in order to make an educated buying decision.
Sure.
So that's where it started.
Precisely.
But holy fuck, is that time consuming, right? And to be able to leverage tools, whether it's AI or any other software, to leverage tools in order to make decisions quicker. That's really all this is.
Absolutely. And it's like, theoretically, it's like, I love optimizing time. I'm like a big proponent of like the 4-hour work week. How can we like take something like this and like break it down into actually what matters, the 80-20 rule, right? But it turned out like when she said that, it was like, that's actually a really good use of your time. It sounds like it's generating a lot of revenue. There's not a way for you to delegate that. Like she had even tried, right? It's like you're just not replicating those results. The only way to like multiply yourself is teach a robot how to like be you to the best of your abilities. And here we are. It turned out to work.
Well, and it's funny because I remember I attended like a Tony Robbins event a couple of years ago. And that was something that he talked about. He's like, I am training an AI to be me, because the dude's almost 70. Like, how can he continue to teach in the way that he does? Well, he's going to teach a robot to be him. And now it's going to be more accessible to every single person on the planet, right?
I didn't even know that, but that's beautiful. Love Tony Robbins. I've been to a couple of his events. Nice. It's not common that you run into people who have, but I love that. Super cool.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say, Evan, it's been a few episodes since you've dropped Tony Robbins. So
it has been a few.
Thaddeus,
Yeah.
have you been to a Tony Robbins event?
no, I have not. So long thing is for like a while there, probably like a year and a half, 2 years straight, where every time we had a podcast, Evan would always mention something about Tony Robbins. So that's why it's a long-standing inside joke.
So much so that when Thad got his hand on our Roadcaster, he put this on.
Hey, everybody, it's Tony Robbins.
That's amazing. You know,
so I didn't tell him, and then when he said it on the podcast, I just pressed it. I had it queued up and just ready.
love it. No, big believer. Love that stuff.
So since we've talked a little bit about 4-hour work week and time management and in leveraging your day and putting it into an appropriate way, how do you, I mean, you've got co-founder of CXA, DataCube, and CPO of Ad Leverage. That sounds like a mouthful, and I'm sure that your time gets pulled in many, many different directions at the helm of, essentially 3 companies. What do you do in your day to be able to help organize and structure it to be able to maximize your efficiencies?
That's a really great question. So, still always trying to perfect this, right? For better or for worse. I feel like, and just to like add some more context to that, those are 3 companies of probably the 6 that we're involved with, but those are the public ones, right? So it's definitely a lot to juggle. I try to look at it through the lens of like, what is my time value and what is, is anything that ends up on my calendar worth that time, right? It has to be justified when I look at it. I've optimized my calendar in that way for years. And what a lot of people tend to give me a lot of shit about is that the majority of my week, I'd say 4 out of the 5 days is considered focus time, where nobody books meetings with me. My time is blocked. That is my time to sit down and do deep work. I don't know if that's another like great like book on that kind of stuff and like time optimization. And what I really try to do is shift my time up in scales, meaning I used to really think about, okay, if my time is worth this an hour, it's really important that every hour I'm generating at least that or more in value. And I used to optimize my calendar that way. These days, what I actually think about is shifting up time scales, meaning instead of thinking about it by hour, I think about it by year. And it's like, what do I need to achieve this year to be able to, double down and substantiate on this time value and generate exponentially more of it? Right. So, it's still something I'm perfecting. But to this day, 4 out of my 5 days a week are time blocked. For better or for worse, there's lots of meetings I end up declining. Obviously, I'm always available via Slack or those kind of communications for like urgent issues, right? But I feel like those are things that I can like batch from the 4-hour work week and manage in very small increments of time and answer very quickly rather than, well, this issue became an hour-long meeting. I just can't afford to do that with my day because, to me, I'm looking at the longer term vision of like, this minute, this hour, this meeting, like sometimes I cut people off in meetings. It's just the symptom of, I feel that literally every minute is taking away from like the deep work I should be doing to make this product better, to think of more features, to determine if we need seed funding or not, to, put together a deck to drive everybody the vision, show everybody the roadmap. And that's just, again, that's like 3 products this year. And they're all net new, right? It's like, I want to be able to do exponentially more of that. And the only way I can do that is if I'm in control of my time and deciding what has the most potential for every minute that's used, but thinking of it in terms of broader time scale so that I can really achieve those annual goals, right? It's tough, but it's a lot of triage. It's a lot of hard conversations. It's a lot of no's. A lot of people probably, think I'm an asshole for it, but
Well, hey, it's got me thinking about my calendar, my day, and like the meetings that I'm involved in, and how can I remove myself from some of those meetings? I was having a conversation with one of our team members saying, like, yeah, you noticed that in our web development meeting, I go in there and I pop in and I'm like, hey, do you guys need me for anything? No, great, boom, see ya. Or they need me for something, boom, answer it, and then I'm out, right? And so trying to be a little bit more on the mark for those sorts of things, because I think a lot of people get lost in that.
Precisely. And like, it's a lot of perception too, right? Like, again, like there's probably a lot of people that think I'm an asshole for doing that. Like, it's collateral damage. It is what it is. I know the greater vision. I'm headed in that direction, and see you there.
How do you balance that? Because there's the external outside of the company with clients and things like that, who they see you as one of the faces of the company, and they do want to see and spend some time with you, have some conversations with you. But then there's also the internal and making sure that the company culture is all on point and all of that. How do you balance those aspects while still saying no?
It's a difficult balance. It is very hard. But what I would say is that internally, that the way that I feel that I've set the infrastructure to do so is by building a leadership team that's capable of handling those things without me. And they're the ones who are able to take any issue that they can't handle based off the, training and processes I've provided them. And that is what can bubble up to me. Right. And I will solve it immediately. Not a problem. It's fixed. Or it's like, there's like a global patch. We need to resolve our processes this way. Not a problem. I love tackling like real problems anytime. It's quick to me. It's intuitive. It's like decide, right? With clients, it is a little bit more challenging, right? But I think that I've been able over the years to help build a team that is so competent and so motivated and so like just like lives up to anything I've ever been able to do personally and more, that our clients are never disappointed in that. Right. It's like, I'm always having those conversations of like, but it's you, I want you to work my account. I want you, if I meet people and they're like, I want to come on to add leverage, but I want you. It's like, that that's not possible. I'm so sorry, but I have a great team who I've personally trained, personally vetted, personally hired, like works on the processes that I've created with Andrew, obviously with the team. We refine it together over time. We do, that is one exception, is obviously we do have to meet for things like that are very important, that pertain to like performance success. And we do that together, but it's not a, Bree's the face of this call and she's leading 10 client calls a week and there's 50 more who really want to work with it. It's not a thing. It can't be a priority. I'm not a talking head. I'm here to, invest as much deep knowledge and deep time as I can in real priorities. And, performance is one of them, but I've definitely built the framework by which I trust any qualified expert and with less than a certain amount of accounts, I would say, who can focus on those frameworks to be able to replicate the results that I've personally achieved over the years, thus the performance we're able to achieve together.
That's a great answer. But you said it right. I mean, you nailed it, right? Like, oftentimes as business owners or as seniors in the company, et cetera, you tend to be the face of the organization, right? And people want to have a conversation with the owner. Same thing with an HVAC business. Something goes wrong with the tech on site, like, I want to talk to the owner, get the owner on the line, right? And managing that balance can be so difficult and so tricky, and making sure that you train your team to also have the same words as that. So looking at, this team aspect of things, and let's pivot, and, obviously, on the marketing side, we both have that. But if you're to give the words of advice to an HVAC owner, a plumbing owner, home service business owner, to be able to empower their team and train their team to be able to say those same things, hey, I can handle it, or this person, not the owner, what would be some of the talking points you would give them?
Ooh. This is a deep one. It's hard. It's tough. I feel like it's me developing a lot of personal resilience over the years to what other people consider to be emergencies and helping train colleagues, the team accordingly. Right. And I would say that that's really what's been key to helping me alleviate a lot of like the day-to-day, I think this is a problem flags that I would typically get. Right. I mean, I've told people before, there were days that I could literally sit on Slack and that be my day. I could easily, to this day, if I wanted to, if I made myself available, I could spend literally 12 to 24 hours on Slack answering questions, right? Or alleviating, like perceived problems. But the reality is a lot of people, if and when empowered to resolve things on their own, if you provide them the resources to do so, if you instill in them the confidence that they are capable of doing so, read the 4-Hour Work Week. I would highly recommend. is you'd be surprised what they will rise to. And a lot of people really just need that empowerment and need to know that when they say something to a customer, when they say something to a client, it'll never be contradicted by their higher up. It'll be like, oh yeah, John told you today that like this was the solution that we could offer. This is the process I trained him on, blah, blah, blah. That's it. When you call me, you're not going to get a different answer. I've, empowered him to do so. I have his back. That's what he's going to do. And if it gets to me, I'm only going to reinforce that. So eventually he won't feel insecure in the responses I've provided him. It'll stop allowing him to let things escalate to me because, people out in the field, they might be like, yeah, good question. You say you're going to take away this business opportunity or say you're going to call my competitor. Let me get somebody on the phone. Maybe they can offer you something I can't. It's like, no, give them the tools to offer the same things you would offer. And you'd be surprised. Like people are smart, people just need to be empowered and they'll figure it out and it'll happen. And there's going to be some collateral damage along the way. But again, read the 4-Hour Work Week. Highly, highly recommended. Couldn't recommend it more. It's like the biggest thing that's, changed my perception of life and work. And I think I even have a little 4 tattoo because of that. I can't emphasize that enough is like, there's ways to do these things. It just takes confidence and confidence in yourself, confidence in the systems you've developed and confidence in your team, and they will execute.
Right. And I love all of that. And the one thing that I think of like, okay, reinforce their decision. Well, what if their decision was the wrong decision? And now you have to walk that back.
Sure. Yeah. You take them aside, you explain to them why you felt it was the wrong decision at your discretion, like very humbly. It's not like an ego thing. It's like, hey, listen, like I just, there's a reason I felt like we should offer more. And it's because like this unique circumstance XYZ. So this is how I would handle it. Like, I just want to make sure you're good with that. And you know what, here, you are actually going to be the one to communicate that to the customer. You're the good guy in this situation. It's not like the big boss man jumped in and like overrided you, right? You go do that. You handle it. And, you're going to feel like a rock star and the customer's going to feel like they were really, served in the best possible way. And that's how you do it. It's a cultural leadership thing. It's not like I'm the big man. I decided I'm the owner. I'm going to allow it to go like this. It's like train your team to do that. They got it for you. They got your back.
Well, and that's one of the hardest parts as a growing business, right? Is to be able to start to train leaders.
Sure.
It's incredibly difficult. And being able to let go of the things that you view as incredibly important to your business. And without you running it, it's not going to be as good. It's not going to be as successful. The company's going to fail. These are all real fears that a lot of people have. I know we've had before in our business as well. How did you start to let go of that so you can continue to move forward into the deeper work?
To be fair, I would say like, I'd love to be able to speak from the, like, oh, I just decided, right? Like, no, like there became a point where it was just so much was dependent on me and so much was on my plate that there were things that were missed. And it was just a constant negotiation of like, what absolutely cannot be missed today? Like, what do I have to do? Or like this could cost the company money, profitability, and cost team members jobs. Like what is so consequential that it absolutely requires my focus, right? That's how I started to prioritize. Inevitably, as you grow, more and more of that is going to happen, right? More of that is going to take up your day. It could turn out to be 12 hours of your day, 24 hours of your day. And at a time, you just kind of realize like, I'm not actually physically capable of resolving all of this personally. So I'm going to tackle the most important things, constantly prioritize my day through that lens, and anything else, make sure I have the infrastructure in place, the values in place, the standard operating procedures in place, and make sure my team knows my expectations and we're all aligned, and let go. Like that's all you can do is like, there's only so much you can do. Like if it's really important, I get it. Try to do it yourself. But over time, your team is really going to be in your corner. The more trust and empowerment you give them, you'll be shocked at like how autonomously they can run without you. I think it really is just about empowerment.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, completely different direction than I thought we were going to go today, but an absolutely fantastic conversation.
That's the joy of our podcast, is that sometimes something gets brought up so minuscule and like, hey, let's expand, because I thought that was a great topic. But we can always get back onto what you wanted to talk about, which was perhaps data driven marketing components. But first, before we do that, and Evan, if you don't want to go that route, you can go whatever route you want after the random question. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
How's that for delegation?
I'm all hyped up on Mountain Dew and
you told him exactly what was important and empowered him to go his own direction.
Right? I mean, here's where I would go, but hey, you can go wherever you want. So the random question generator, brought to you, of course, by On Purpose Media. You heard earlier, is a marketing company. And that's us, where we bring you more traffic than the mall on Black Friday. So if your traffic was shitty on Friday, hit us up at onpurposemedia.ca. So we have 3 questions queued up. You don't actually get to know what the questions are. You just get to choose. Do you want question 1? Do you want question 2? Or do you want question 3?
3. Let's
3.
go.
All right. If you were a spy, what would your code name be?
Whoa. I wish I had a creative answer for this. Like Brisky, I don't know. Like there's no like anonymity behind that. I just
Well, let's pivot it. So if you like old walkie-talkie radios, I mean now with cell phones and there's text message and stuff, but like the walkie-talkies, right? Where you're talking in that, if you were to have a walkie-talkie code name, so a little bit easier than a spy code name. Like if you're to be like, hey, rubber ducky out, what would it be?
Brisky out.
There you go.
I don't know what can't say I've used walkie-talkies in
In a very long time. There was a point in my life where we didn't have cell phones when we were snowboarding, and that's what we used to find each other on the hill. There you go. The breeze.
Wow.
Nailed it.
That's awesome.
All right, Evan, I've empowered you to take this show in whichever direction you would like.
All right.
He's got this.
Uh-huh.
We're confident in you, Evan.
Well, I do want to go in the data-driven marketing decision route because, and I know that this is something that you do with ad leverage, being able to, and before ServiceTitan even rolled out what they have now with their Marketing Pro, being able to have the ads optimizer in there and being able to feed data back to Google Ads, not just be bringing leads in and then guessing whether or not it was a worthwhile lead or just a half decent conversion. You guys were doing that a couple of years before ServiceTitan was. And I'm sure that through some of your conversations with them said, hey, you guys should probably figure this out. But being able to expedite some of the data that we're bringing in and being able to utilize that in a way that can help us make better marketing decisions, smarter marketing decisions for our company. And as an HVAC owner, I mean, we don't need to know what ad to run. We don't need to know how to place an ad on Facebook or Google or any of that. As an HVAC owner, you need to know what is the 30,000 foot view. So how is it that you take some of the data that you're able to extract from ServiceTitan, convey that back to an HVAC owner so that the two of you can then put together a plan in place that's going to help them execute on their goals?
Love it. So essentially what we do is an exercise on every meeting with every client where we're working through the results of every channel that they have with us, essentially. And yes, a lot of that data, like through that ServiceTitan integration, through, what we've actually built that we had launched prior to that, where we're able to get the revenue data into the ads platforms. That's very, very granular data that our subject matter experts are optimizing off of every day, right? It shows up in the ad platforms. You're able to see it at like a keyword, hour of day, day of week, ad, audience level, everything. You're able to see all of that data there and make adjustments based off that. And more importantly, Google's able to utilize that data, supposedly retrieving it, comparing it against more than 70 million data points to optimize its algorithm in real time to reach your goals, right? Whatever goals you've defined. That's huge. Obviously, that's very in-depth for a business owner, especially an HVAC business owner, right? It's like, hey, I just want to know like what my dollar's doing for me and where you're putting it, right? And need you to be accountable for that. So what we've actually put together is an exercise wherein each of our meetings is actually going through a budget sheet that is dynamic. It's set on an annual, but optimized like on a per meeting basis, where we're showing every dollar that comes in, every dollar that goes out, and how it's performing, and comparing it against each other as far as like on a channel level, so that we can say and empower, our clients to kind of understand like, hey, this is what we're doing. What what are you feeling? What do you think of this in our plan? And give them the opportunity to like get involved in that, right? Because the last thing you want is them to feel like, they're they don't have an involvement in what's going on. They're not sure how you're spending their money. Like they don't quite understand like the results. They hear this on Facebook, they see this on, LinkedIn, whatever. It's really important to actually like educate them and help them understand like, we're doing this because of this. Right. This is the performance target we have for each channel versus what you're getting by month. And we think we should make this change because of this data. It tends to be, once you educate them on that and once you show them the data and continuously do that, it tends to be a very like, easy conversation in that it's like, hey, this is a lot like common sense to a degree, but I'm giving you the additional context that I know as a marketing professional, in the sense that like we want to separate brand, of course, right? And, you're going to get people who tell you like, oh, well, you should look at it this way. And my return on ad spend for Google Ads is 25-1. And it's like, okay, well, let's sit and dissect. Is that brand versus prospecting, remarketing? Like, how are we looking at this? Do we have conquest too? Like, there's lots of different factors you can take into account. And that's why we try to show our clients each one of the channels and efforts separately and measure it consistently by month, cost to revenue, return on ad spend. And sometimes people are like, they're, during shoulder season, it's not going to be about return on ad spend. It's going to be about cost per job, right? And it's like, hey, we want to look at that too. And we want to show them and educate them on like, hey, during, this month, we're just going to get as many jobs on the board as possible. Like we could just optimize towards your highest return on ad spend, but that might lead to less calls. And we know it's really important to keep your team morale high. So we're going to actually just double down on the cost per job and allocate funds that way. Are you cool with that? It's like an ongoing exercise with them, like including them on not only showing them like, it's not just a report, right? It's like, it's a working doc we both have access to. It's live. We go through it every week. And we want their feedback and what their objectives are that day, that week, that month, whatever. And that's how we work. And it tends to be, I feel like it's empowering to the clients as well. It's showing you exactly what we see. This is how we're justifying our decisions. You might have a business rationale or context that we don't have that is making you want to move in a different direction. This is your opportunity to provide it to us. But at the end of this meeting, we're both going to be aligned and proceed down a direction we both feel best about. That's it.
I love it. In seasons like we're in right now, which is the shoulder season for parts of the US, up here in Canada, it's the joyous winter season. So we got lots of demand calls still pouring in. It's fun. But how do you balance the two in terms of an ad spend? Because you said we're going to look at more cost per job. We're going to keep technicians busy. We're going to keep trucks on the road because that's more important than just getting the best return on your ad dollar. How do you balance that ad spend in terms of branding plays versus demand plays?
So this may be a hot take. This may be controversial, but I would say branding needs to be part of every effort, right? But it is not what you build your advertising around. It is not something you blend into your results. It is, if anything, blended into your traditional media and organic.
Correct.
So for that reason, it's like we record it, we do it, we'll show you the results of it, we'll contextualize it with maybe what we spent on media that month, but it's not at all something we're saying, hey, we should double down on this. It's crushing it this month. It's like we are the antithesis of that. It's like we want to focus on prospecting. Our whole position in the market is really like we focus on new customers. We of course have a team that does database marketing and all that, track that accordingly, right? But like the big appeal to a lot of business owners is not, oh, we monetize your database, or like we're going to make your memberships call back it's like, no, a lot of it is really like, we're going to get you new customers. We're going to show you what it costs to get a new customer. We're going to show you the value of a new customer, and what, like through that effort, you can either see the return on ad spend per new customer, or you can see the cost per new customer. And depending on the part of the season we're in, you might want to lean towards one or the other. Right. But to me, it's like brand always plays a place, but it is not at all part of the conversation or the emphasis. It's just in the background. It's always going to be going at its own pace, and cool.
Well, the thing with branding is that it also lends itself into the digital and the online aspect. You see a billboard. Well, how hard is it to actually track a billboard? Well, insanely, right? Because people don't say, yeah, I saw your billboard. It's like, no, they saw the billboard and it remembered that. So when they searched AC repair near me, unless you're doing a bunch of branding and vehicle wraps, etc. Now, obviously, there's different levels of branding in different levels of businesses. When would it make sense for somebody to start adding more and more branding into the mix in terms of, like, I guess, a size aspect? Because look at somebody $1 million in revenue versus 10 million versus 50 million, right?
Look, I mean, get, as high of a search impression share as you can. It will probably only represent 10% of your total search budget.
Right.
Continue to do that. Like, whether you're like a small shop and it's just your existing customers because you've never done traditional and you spend $100 a month, do that. Or you're advertising like crazy and you're spending $100,000 a month. Like, cool, do that. But the focus for us, the focus for most of our clients is like the net new customer acquisition. That's the performance we're reporting. It's the conversations we're having. It's where our objectives align to. It's not blended into anything, and it's never even a point of conversation. It exists. Good job. Like, it's supporting your traditional media, but it has nothing to do with like the digital prospecting efforts.
Makes sense.
I'm curious on your take then on the generative search that's coming out and what Google's doing there. A lot of it right now is based around like the how-to type questions and why type questions, as opposed to service demand based questions.
Sure.
Or even just searches. But what is your take around the idea of getting that search for AC repair, and what AI is going to bring to the table when someone is searching for AC repair in the future, versus now the idea that, hey, we've got 3 options on the ads. We've got our LSA, we've got our maps, we've got the organic rankings on the bottom. There's so many different layers to where you can show up on there versus what AI is going to be doing and shortening that list.
Yeah. I would say, I feel like they've been kind of moving in that direction for a long time, right? It was like, it's like dynamic search ads, the, black box of whatever smart shit they're doing these days, right? It's like, there's always been a lot of that. And of course they're going to continue to move towards that. Fortunately, like with our partnerships with them, whether, public or not, we've been able to position it in such a way that it's our use of certain betas or adoption of certain products is dependent upon being able to negate the brand name in those efforts and separate that into a separate effort, so that we can still maintain, our values, which is our focus. Our primary conversation is always about prospecting. So know that that's always an option. I hope that will continue to be an option with generative AI and the responses that we're seeking there. But I would look at it in the same way I would look at anything else, which is, look, like dynamic search ads, like we used to shit on that in the beginning. It was terrible. It was like, it included brand. Once we were able to get that negated, it's like, okay, it's like some crazy long tail searches, right? It's, we're getting great CPAs with terrible ROAS. Like, those things are going to happen and exist. But as you continue to optimize it, adjust it, add negatives where you can, right? You're able to see, and the way that we look at it is like, it's seen in the same context as any other campaign or channel, where it's like, it either has a great return on ad spend or it doesn't. Like, surprisingly for a lot of clients, dynamic search ads do really well, because it's like, hey, you're able to see that, like, even though it's a super long tail, like random, like search query that you would never think turned into like a high intent search. So you would never even have that like term or long tail keyword as like a purchasable keyword, right? it turns out that it can actually convert. So then you learn from that and you put it into your regular campaigns, and boom, like you're able to really like get into that. So I would just say that like whatever it is, it's like it's going to be scary, it's going to be different. Google's going to always like push towards more broad, more blended, more whatever. But that's why you have agencies and, you know, paid search experts or subject matter experts who are able to kind of like break that down and see like, okay, what is actually like aligned with the prospecting efforts versus not? Because I feel like there's going to be things that are like blended that it's like, yeah, of course. Like we could say, like we could sit here as an agency too and be like, yeah, cool. We got you a 50 return on ad spend with your $10,000. Like we're doing fucking awesome. We're just geniuses, right? Like we could do that too, but it's like, you're more valuable to your clients long-term if you sit there, break it down and say, actually, Google came out with this thing, love it for this reason, hate it for this reason. We're going to work with our team there to be able to do it this way because it aligns more with our goals. And we'll show you the results of just that, you know? And if we can't get Google to comply with like our demands for whatever reason, we'll show you what it is. We'll weigh it out against what we're always been doing, you know, the prospecting efforts that are just specific to, you know, search and XYZ. And, you know, you can weigh it and we'll give you our advice. We'll do it all together and just kind of see how it works and what performs in alignment with our efforts and values and objectives and go from there.
Well, it's taking a higher level partnership approach with your clients, and it's no longer, you know, to use the term loosely, marketing bros where, you know, or sales bros that are in a marketing seat where you come in and, well, yeah, you know, look at this Facebook ad cost per lead. I got you down to $4 cost per lead. Great. Well, there was 1,000 people that came in and maybe 10 of them, if that were even legitimate. Right. And so like, what do you focus on, right? What do you have those conversations with? And what's really important to a customer or a business is, you know, thing is, well, is my phone ringing? And is my board full, right? You know, and if you can do those things, and now obviously the operational side is on them to make sure that they're hitting their margins, yada, yada, yada. But if their phone's ringing and their boards are full, by the way of what's doing it, and there's a partnership approach with those two things, man, now you're winning.
Exactly that. It's like we have to do this together. We have to agree on the right approach. And it's like, hey, listen, like if you want me to tell you got a 50 return on ad spend because the people who are pitching you are telling you they'll get you a 45 return on ad spend and it's blended and like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But most business owners, like when you sit down and you're like, listen, like, yes, I can get you that $5 cost per lead. You're going to convert 0.1% of them because it's like, it's people with, if there's no audience targeting, there's no homeowner qualification, there's no third party audiences. There's not even like, you know, form qualifications. It's like a 2-tap by accident. Half the people are going to be like, not even answer. The other half are going to be like, who the fuck are you? Right. Like sure, we can do that too. No problem.
I love that two tap by accident. That's hilarious because it really, like Facebook leads is like it's just a tap and then you call them 3 minutes later. I have no form. But look, these things, and by the way, you know, the part of what I'm saying, the marketing bros, and I think even I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit, is that information is good on a marketer side of things, and it's good leading indicators in terms of the actual overall performance. So it's not to negate that those things aren't important. They are. It's just a matter of what actually is important and what needs to be actually communicated to a client. And like we used to do the same thing, and we still do to you know, extent of talking about your click-through rate and your cost per, you know, your conversion rate and your cost per acquisition, because those are important leading metrics to know if something is working. It's just the end of the day, what are those things? And where something like, you know, a ROAS, you know, a return on ad spend, and if you're getting a 50x, is like, great. You know, that means there's both things are working good. The marketing is A, working, and B, the operations are also working, because it's the worst thing ever to have a great marketing company send you 100 qualified leads, but you're absolutely dog shit at booking them into your calendar. And now you've only booked 10 to 20% of them, where you should be booking double to triple that, right? Or if not, you know, 80% in some people's cases. And so those are where some of those finer points come into in the data-driven side of things, to be able to analyze, is your marketing company good, or are my operations good, or are both good, or are both shit, or any combination of it?
Yes, that is absolutely critical, because it's like, to your point, it's like, one, like everybody has to like kind of understand that, but two, it's like, if you look at the data, it's like there can be great marketing, you could have great cost per lead, great like like quality of lead, but the booking rate is shit, and then the turnover rate is shit, and then the close rate is shit. It's like, yeah, of course your average ticket shit. Of course your return on ads been shit, right? Like, that's not a marketing problem. That's an operations problem. So knowing those metrics, you're able to help diagnose that. And sometimes it's a hard conversation. Most times it's a hard conversation, but it's like, I'm ready for the hard conversations if it's a marketing issue, but you got to be ready for the hard conversations if it's an operational issue, and we'll fix it together. And you're going to be so much better off once we do, but neither of us can run from it.
Nope. Well, and that's just really it. I mean, I was having a conversation yesterday with another business owner just on, what they do, what we do, partnerships, vendors, whatever. And I was talking about something, and she's like, wait, you guys have issues in your business? I'm like, yeah, don't you? She's like, yeah, we all do. Guess what? Every business has some form of an issue. Every business knows that something is broken. And to walk around as a business owner and say everything is all roses, well, you just fucking lied to yourself. Like, stop doing that. There's shit that always needs to be fixed in everybody's business. I guarantee you the 3 businesses that you have that, are visible, and the other ones that aren't, there's shit that's broken and shit that needs to be fixed. It's normal.
It's like, no,
be part of it. We're perfect, right?
No, it's all broken. It's all fucked up. I'm mad. It can't get better. Like, it can't get better fast enough. Like, that's the perpetual grind, right?
Right.
But hey, like, it's actually great. It turns out other people love it. I'm just always pissed because it's not enough, right? Like, you have to be able to be humble about that and acknowledge it. It's like, listen, like, I have these goals. It needs to get here. I want it to do this. Working on it, like, same with every business owner. I feel like that sense of humility develops like that, a level of trust where it's like, hey, it's okay to say your operations suck. It's okay to say you had, a bunch of call outs in your call center last week. Like, let's work through it. Do you need help hiring? Like, how can I be a solution there? It's a team effort for sure.
Yep.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I love about DataCube. Perfect tie-in.
Hey.
Product drop. But being able to see that data in real time, what it is that's happening in your business, that scorecard for your business, to show your technicians, to show your CSRs how everything's working, your dispatchers, etc., how everything's working together, so that you can diagnose when problems arise before it gets to a point where you're like, hey, your marketing's shitting the bed, and you're like, well, hey, you missed 74.6% of your calls last week. So
it's the great equalizer. I love it.
It's perfect. So
Yeah.
why don't you give us a quick pitch on what DataCube is, how it helps in the businesses, and some of the new features that are going to be coming out in the next year, or at least hints towards them.
Yeah. I'll let you know what's coming up. So essentially, DataCube is a great data analytics tool that contextualizes not just your Service Titan, because we hear that a lot, right? It's like, well, I have Service Titan, it has reports. Okay, well, does that include your PulseM, your Sage Intacct, your QuickBooks, like whatever else you're running on? Does it blend it all together, and does it contextualize it? Usually no, right? So essentially what we do is we take data from any different source and bring it together in such a way that it's either contextualized around the same technicians that are common across all, or the same metrics that are common across all. And it allows you to display all of that in a beautiful format on a TV or on your mobile app or whatever, so that you can see, your graphs, your metrics, all that stuff, right? What people love most about it too is the leaderboards, and that it's usually used in such a way that you can see, like, your tech team, your installers, your CSRs are all shown on a TV screen in your office, where it's a 1 through 10, and it's ranking them by whatever metric you determined was most important for that time frame. Or you can actually run a contest for, like, well, your sales were really high and you're ranked by number 1 on sales, but your discount rate was also really high. So that's not good. So I'm going to run a contest that shows you can have the highest sales, but you're not actually going to, like, win the contest and lead the race unless your discount rate is below 10%. Right. So it allows you to do all that and, like, build all that on your own. But what I'm really excited about, and kind of like alluded to earlier in our conversation, is like, that's just where it is today. Where it's going is, like, you're going to be able to create your own KPIs, not just create your own contests, but literally define your KPIs in such a way that it's like, oh, Service Titan shows me this, but I actually want to exclude this price book line item, and I want to only look at this job type, and I want to calculate it against XYZ, where I divide it by whatever. And you can literally build that KPI in the interface, and or if you're like, that's really complicated, we'll do it for you. So it's being created in such a way that it's like, similar to CXC or, any other product that we're doing, it's going to be self-serve. Whereas historically, it's been a lot of like consultative, like we'll develop these dashboards for you. We're like your BI team. Well, now you're going to be able to do that in-house yourself at an enterprise level, pick from other company templates, pick from our templates, and be able to display any dashboard instantly without having to talk to anybody to do it. You can be live in minutes. So it's been a journey, but that's what that's what we're locking in there.
That's super exciting. And I mean, the customization of it, right? Every market handles things a little bit differently. Every owner's been taught things a little bit differently. So to be able to include the metrics for what it is that's important for them is incredibly essential.
Precisely. And I will also note, like, the biggest challenge we run into and why it's become such a service and why it's so consultative, and in the fact that like we literally have to sit there and like develop this with you, is because every service titan or every house call pro like is all structured differently. Everybody's is a fucking mess, right? Like, trust everyone tried to like implement it the right way and to the best practices and read all the documentation, whatever. It's all a mess. What we're doing is actually structuring it, recreating like naming conventions for all of the data. We're creating trades, regions, like all these things that should be there, structuring your data as it exists so that it's seamless and you don't have to update it every time. You don't have to create manual reports. It's all automatic. It's all tagged the correct way, and it's scalable, and it's able to be rolled up at an enterprise view. So it's not just for one company. It can be for any, private equity group that owns 50 companies. You can roll up your data, right? So it's built just for that. I'm super stoked. Can't wait to have it come out. Probably, end of Q2 in 2024. It's going to be a radically different product. It's already pretty kick-ass and pretty cool, but stoked to see it just explode from there. So that's been my focus, and hence needing to prioritize time.
And time block, because I'm sure that's some deep builds that happen in there. So
Precisely.
well, as we wrap up, of course, I did want to drop this. You used to love walkie-talkies when you were little. FYI. So,
That's my mom. Oh my gosh.
So
She's
she's been tuning in on LinkedIn and watching, and so you do know what walkie-talkies are. You just might not remember. Of course, yeah.
She got me in the marketing.
There you go, right? And our moms are our biggest fans. I know for a while there when we started our podcast, my mom was the only person who watched our shows. So there you go. Shout out to my mom as well. So, all right. If you wanted to reach out to Bree, you can check out Ad Leverage at adleverage.com. Of course, if you want to check out DataCube, which we wrapped up as datacube.ai. And of course, you want to check out CXC. It is CXC.ai, which is fascinating. And of course, check out the episode we did with Amanda Triolo from September. I think it was in September. End of September. When we were down in Austin, we dove deep into what it actually is. So phenomenal stuff. And of course, the odd time that she does check her email, because she's time blocked 4 to 5 days. Brianna at adleverage.com is how you reach out to her.
Love it.
Cool. Well, as we do wrap up, though, we have one final question here for you, Bree.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
Ooh. Oh, this is so hard. I don't even know. What keeps you going every day?
Your higher why.
Exactly. It's about how you got here, where you're going, what'd you do, but what makes you not stop?
So what does make you not stop? What is your higher why?
Ooh. I have a chip on my shoulder for sure. And my mom commenting on this this thing, got to be able to prove it to her. She let me get away with a lot in life, and didn't take the traditional route. My marketing was misapplied in the beginning. It was a lot of partying, a lot of not.
Cut your chop. You got to cut your chop somewhere.
Precisely. So that got to prove it out and make sure that you take care of the right people along the way and give them back the time that you lost by focusing on what you needed to do. That's why.
No, I love that bigger and higher and deeper meanings to it. And so one of the things that I wanted to, and this kind of sparked this off, is, your audacious end game is what you put in our show notes. And but it also is going to tie into the why a little bit, right? Because you have the chip on the shoulder and you have something to prove. So your audacious end game is a portfolio valued at 1 billion. Sounds psychotic, perhaps. Attainable, absolutely. After all, persistence beats resistance. So connect with me here, and you can follow along in real time as I fuck around and find out. But the question that I have, and this kind of sparks another one, is saying, okay, if you have the chip on the shoulder, how do you know you need to reassess your why? How do you know that you've proved it? And then what do you do after that?
Ooh, it's definitely going to be hard to quantify, but I would say, the more time that I can acquire that freedom to, be available for family events, things that matter, be more focused, be more present, less on my phone, less on my email. As I proceed in that direction, I feel like I will have fulfilled my why, right? But I feel like part of finding that freedom is certainly, the success and autonomy that dictates that. And to a degree, that's financial, and hence the audacious goal of $1 billion portfolio. But when I get there, or if I get there, or if I don't, the ultimate success to me will be, that reclaiming that time, reclaiming that independence, and just being able to focus on what matters: family, presence, all that.
And that's a key point. We've said it before. I mean, I know I've said it. Part of the reason why I'm building a business isn't to be a businessman with a family; it's to be a family man with a business. Right, being able to have that freedom. And my wife actually came in and thanked me this morning because I started late because something happened that day home, and I just had to be flexible. Right, I started an hour and a half later than I normally did because I went and walked the dog and the kid and dropped the kid off late to be a product of the day home of like, hey, thanks for being flexible. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss out on, is the flexibility around family.
For sure. You have to prioritize it, and you have to prioritize it for your team too. Is it's like, you can never have that perspective of, oh, must be nice, you got to start at 10 a.m. like, must be nice. It's like, no, it's like, this is what we do. We prioritize what matters.
Mm-hmm. And family first. And that's been our motto inside of our organization too.
Love it.
Yep.
Precisely.
Well, cool.
We're aligned.
Isn't it fascinating, based on what you just defined as when you would know that you've met your why, that you could do that today if you wanted to?
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's like, when is it enough?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just getting started and parlaying it into even more of that why and ability to autonomously, independently sit in that why. So work in progress.
But here's the thing: when you say freedom, what freedom is it? Some people say it's money freedom. Some people say it's time freedom. Well, what about both? To do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want, no matter what it costs. Right. And that's, and when you look at it that way, and now you can still have your priorities, you can still build your business, you can still be involved in your business because that's a priority to you, right? That's something that could be a freedom element, right? But the other part of that is now the family, right? And saying, okay, as Evan said, you could do it now if you wanted. Yeah, great. I could. But I also like the priority and like the freedom to be able to go do and work on my business and be able to work and make impact. And you can see that by way of CXC.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a part I maybe negated to even say is like, look, I have a date on my calendar that's like, I have a certain amount of weeks left, right? I only intend to work until I'm 40, right? Like, but that's work as a means of like, I have to. I love what I do, and I want to continue to do it on my terms always in perpetuity, and I will never stop. I would be so bored, right? But, got to be in a place where everything's squared away. You can do what you do when you want to do it. And that's the why, that's the blessing, that's ultimate success.
And the curse of being on vacation and having to sit on your hands because you just want to be doing something.
That's it. Yep.
I have a tough time. That's why I have a tough time sitting on a beach, right? So I have to read on a beach. I just can't sit there and do nothing, read a book. Although I would say that I could probably golf 7 days a week. Different courses, though. Different courses. So anyways, Bree, it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit and chat with us. So glad that we were able to get you on finally. I know Evan's been waiting for quite some time, even after our conversation in Austin. Super excited that we were able to get on and spend some time with us and have a drink with us crazy Canadians up here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
And until next time,
cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.